Hey everybody, so the driver this week. How do you gain a few extra yards? How do you hit it much straighter? And how do you do it consistently? Well, look, I've just come off a wonderful week with my dad up in Scotland where he played unbelievable. Now, he'd been suffering with his drive, been struggling, he's actually losing a little bit of distance in his older age. He's in his 70s now. He had a big slice on it as well, hitting the ball a little bit out of the neck of the club. And we've been doing a few things, and do you know what? He played unbelievable. Now, so much so that we actually ended up winning the match across the entire week. And I say we won the match, he won it. He played so good. I want to share with you these three things that made such a difference to his accuracy and his distance, because you know what? I know it can help anybody. And he doesn't have time to practice so much these days, so these things you can take straight to the golf course. Now, before I get into the video, look, if you're new to the channel, it's one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing. Just press that little bell button, next subscribe button, you get notified every time I release a video just like this one. Plus, I'll put everything that we discuss in the video in a detailed practice plan in the description box below. So let's get started. Okay, so let's help you gain now a few extra yards. Now, with my dad, look, he's in his 70s. There's two ways to get power. You can become Bryson DeChambeau and use kind of massive amounts of bulk and strength to do it, or you can use science. And ultimately, look, if you hit up on the driver, you can actually gain quite a bit of extra yardage. It's proven on all the TrackMan stats that hitting up on the driver gains you yardage. Many of the tall players hit down on it, but that's because they're already strong. They use brute strength, right? Now, the second thing my dad needed was he needed a more consistent arc to the swing. He had a bit of a loop going on coming across the ball, and a lot of the distance and accuracy was lost by this big bend. So here's the first and probably the most important thing we did initially. We needed to change his posture. When he was set up to the golf ball, and I'll show you how it's set up to driver. When you set up to the golf ball here, he would look like he was actually laying an egg. You won't mind me saying this. He's sat back here, and that basically means if his legs are out of balance, he can't really kind of move from here. And all that happened then was he had to use his torso. Now, I see this a lot. So the first thing I want you to do is start to get yourself into a nice athletic position. So all I did with my dad was simply this. I simply got him to stand up. So I want you to lock your knees back like this. And then all I want you to do, look, is then just lose the tension in your knees. Feel your pressure in the balls of your feet here. You're not on your heels, you're not on your toes. You should be able to roll the toes up and lift the heels up almost here, okay? Then from there, I want your ball position opposite your lead foot. Because if you want to hit up on the ball, you've got to make sure the ball is opposite the lead heel here, right? And then the third and final thing in setup is this. I got him to widen his stance. Now, what widening his stance will do is it immediately drops this trail side. Now, if you're dropping your trail side, you're almost creating, look, a little bit of a ramp now to hit up on the driver. If this kind of trail foot is too close, you raise this trail side, encouraging more of a downward strike. So widening it here really helps you to create, it's almost like ramp effect. The second thing it does, when you widen your stance, you provide more ability to use the ground in a rotational fashion, which is going to go into the arc in a second, to generate some speed. Just imagine a discus thrower or throwing. If you're kind of using the ground, if you've got a narrow stance, well, you can create some purchase with the ground, widen it. Now I can use that ground much more effectively. That's all we did in the setup we did to really help. Now, once we've done that, he applied them within just a few minutes really. This felt a bit strange, to be fair. Then we moved on to step number 2. So that was working really well. That was gaining some extra yardage, but the problem was he still had a little bit of this bend in him. Now, my dad sliced it. You might hook the golf ball. I'm going to give you a tip for that in a second. Now, my dad sliced it. Now, whenever you slice a golf ball, it means you have a loop going on in your golf swing. And slicers generally, like my dad, their shoulders, as opposed to this trail shoulder going under and the lead shoulder going higher here through the impact area, his was going this way. This trail shoulder got high. So I needed him somehow here to get this trail shoulder naturally going under. Really simple. All I did was get him to imagine throwing a ball. So literally got him throwing underarm here. So you grab your driver, put your lead hand on top here, and if you slice a golf ball, just to get the sensation of swinging underarm. Because when you swing underarm here, your trail shoulder naturally goes lower and your lead shoulder goes higher. In this position, slices are never here. My dad literally, when he got into this position here, that is never going to slice a golf ball. Slices are always in this position, right? Now, you might be playing golf right-handed, but you're actually left-handed, so no problem at all. All you then do is this. swap it around. Take your lead hand. Just imagine now tossing this ball this way. So you're going to throw it this way. Bang. Look how my lead shoulder's going high, trail shoulder staying low. Doesn't matter. Either way, just get the sensation of throwing it. Now, we've been doing this. Now, Adrian, who we were with at the time, really enhanced this just a little bit more by saying, look, Danny, if you notice his legs aren't really kind of coming in. So what he did is Adrian said, look, when you throw a ball, you don't just kind of throw it underarm. There's also natural motion. So he got my dad literally allowing this kind of trail side here to actually bend in, naturally fall inwards. I don't know if you can see it from this angle here. He's getting him to do this. Now, again, this isn't something you do if you hook. I'll come into that in a second. But all this is doing is exactly what you'd normally do if you were throwing a ball underarm. So don't just throw it like they're static. Make sure you're going to use the ground. And as soon as you've got this kind of a little bit of a bend in this position, you're working under here. Look at this. Not only does it change, look, the path, you can't swing over it. Look, that's a high side. Under here gives you the upwards motion too. So it kills two birds with one stone. You get the upward motion, plus you get a change in the whole arc. So suddenly now my dad could come inwards here much, much more as opposed to over. Now, if you hook the golf ball, there's one other thing my dad did, I'll come to that in a second, but if you hook the golf ball, all you do is at the opposite feel. If you hook the golf ball, you are too underneath. This will be somewhere I am sometimes. So instead of actually going under, what you would do is you practice from here, swinging or throwing the ball more downwards towards the ground, because you want to get the sensation here that your shoulder is staying much higher through the shot as you're throwing this way. Very, very different, right? But my dad wasn't. My dad's a slicer. He needs to feel this kind of under motion. Once he'd done that and he got that sensation of the legs naturally moving under, this kind of kink here, throwing underneath, we then start to say, okay, now you've got it set up, Dad. Just start to make some swings, just feeling that. Backwards and forwards, right? The third and final thing, which is the glue that kind of holds this all together, is you've got to take away the visualization that you've always done. So, like for instance, if my dad was slicing a golf ball, the image of slice is really kind of fixed in his mind, isn't it? I don't know if you're the same. So when you have a bad shot, it's there. So he would naturally compensate for that by aiming left. You've got to start to believe that the two things we've started to put in are going to start to work. And therefore you have to start to kind of give yourself a very different image. We had to encourage my dad to visualize much more of a draw style shot, because this then would send subliminally the messages to the body to kind of almost enhance this underarm motion here. It's very hard to swing in this position if you're visualizing a slice, yeah? Same if you hook. If you hook the golf ball, you need the complete opposite to what my dad's doing. You don't want to be encouraging this motion. You do too much of that. You want to get the sensation, not the reality, but you want to get the feeling of coming more down on the golf ball. Look at the action here. I'm coming more this way. But if you've been visualizing a hook, what you're doing, you're actually aiming over there. Completely opposite. It kind of is a mismatch between your image and then what you're going to try and work on, right? So you must make sure that the image in your mind matches what we've just been talking about. So kind of it complements it and works with it. So in summary, let's show you a system that I gave my dad for the golf course. Now, clearly, we got the ball opposite his lead foot here. We widened his stance a little bit here to get that nice tilt. But the key thing, we tipped up here, locks his leg back, lose a bit of tension to get him in a great position to start his driver. Now he could in a position to use the ground and also hit up on the driver. Now from there, we could here we got him to kind of get a sensation of just throwing underneath the club, using Adrian's move here of just make sure on this kind of trail side gets into what we call side bend, a little kink in, just feeling, because like I said, if you slice, this whole thing's up here somewhere, coming down it, just getting the sensation that it's underarm. Again, if you're playing golf right-handed but are actually left-handed, just do the opposite. Bang, same principles, just toss the ball out of your back of your lead hand. From there, now he's got that feeling, he can start to kind of recreate that feeling. But as long as it's complemented with the image that matches the motion. Visualizing a draw, not easy to do when you're not used to this. So head to the driving range, get some practice with this. We did this with Dad on the range a few times. Then you can start to kind of move that out onto the golf course so it naturally flows much freer. Let's have a look at this in action. So I've gone through my system here. I'm feeling like it's more underarm here. The arc now isn't coming over, it's coming underneath. Now we've got a chance to get that ball curving from right to left for me. Okay, so simple as that. You want to get more power, you want to hit it a little bit straighter, set yourself up to win, ball position forward, wider stance here, get those legs, lock them back, find your balance in your feet first. Now you're set. We want to then create a much more consistent arc, okay? If you slice the golf ball, throw a ball underarm, you want to get the shoulders working more this way through the impact area. If you slice, that sensation of tossing underarm. Allow the legs to help you here, get some side bend in this motion here. Just feel that motion. If you hook the golf ball, do the opposite. Feel like you're going to come more down, throw the ball downwards. You want to feel like your trail side here is higher through the impact area. And third and finally, and probably the thing that really stops all this working, or keeps it working, should I say, is if it's not working, you're doing all those things, it's not working, it's often because the image in your mind does not complement the shot you're trying to hit. Make sure that you're visualizing a new shot, the draw if you kind of slice it, or maybe if you hook the golf ball, you're going to visualize a bit of a fade to counter it slightly. Match the image to the shot and the technique that we're starting to work on. And just like my dad, you'll be able to gain a few extra yards. Now, if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up, maybe share it with one of your friends. And just before we finish, I just want to announce that with my dad, we gave him a custom fitting. A lot of people ask me about, does custom fitting work? How does it work? What is it? Is it going to make any difference? Well, look, I treated my dad to a fitting at the St Andrews Links Academy in association with Callaway, and I'll put a link to that custom fitting in the description box below, because if you ever wanted to know exactly how a custom fitting works and if it actually does work, then check that video out. It was really interesting. My dad absolutely loved it and learned a few things too. So I really hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to give it a thumbs up. And again, if you're new to the channel, this is one of your first videos of mine, please consider subscribing by pressing that bell button. But until next week, have a wonderful golfing week.